Welcome back to another episode of Expats in Ukraine with your host, me, Corey. Today, my guest, she's an American travel blogger. She's been to 76 countries. Her name is Lakshmi Parthasarathy.
Yeah.
Did I say it right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Parthasarathy.
Well, thanks for coming down. I know you're not in Ukraine for an extended period of time, but I'm glad I caught you while you're still in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what's up? How's everything?
Things are going good. I'm now 1 month into my trip to Ukraine. It was just going to be for like a few days. I was like, I'll go check it out and see. And I'm really liking it here.
Yeah, Ukraine is not a country you can only spend a few days in. There's so much to
it's
see.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially before the war, like a lot of these areas that are occupied, so beautiful, and it's such a shame that they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
That you can't visit them anymore. They're still there, but just can't
Yeah.
visit. But I don't know if you saw episodes of my podcast before, but I like to start with kind of an icebreaker. So it's just so that people can understand who the real Lakshmi is, you know, a little deeper dive into that mind. Exactly. So it's basically just like this or that. So I'll give you two options.
Okay.
Okay. So clam chowder or borscht?
Borscht.
Borscht, okay.
Yeah. Oh, man. I know from Boston.
Yeah,
but-
exactly.
Gotta go with the borscht.
Gotta go with the borscht. Okay. I'm actually a big borscht fan as well.
Better on the waistline, too.
Better on the waistline. Okay. Okay. Next is, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right. Acushnet River or Dnipro River?
Acushnet.
Acushnet.
No. Dnipro. Oh, no.
Oh, Dnipro.
Yeah,
Okay. Dnipro River. So Acushnet River, tell me about this. Do you swim in this river? I've never been to Massachusetts.
No one swims in the Acushnet River.
Is it dirty?
Yeah. There's like a lot of factories around it. It's a small river near New Bedford, Massachusetts, where I grew up. I don't really know what to say about it. Yeah, it exists.
Yeah, I just looked at a map. I'm like, okay, a river. We'll compare that to the Dnipro. I know nothing about the Acushnet River.
The Dnipro's beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's I know if you
and massive.
It's massive. Yeah, if you've been to places like Cherkasy or maybe even Dnipro, there's like huge like section of the river where it's so wide. Yeah.
I have not. I might try to make it to Dnipro before I head out of Ukraine.
Well, Dnipro is a great city. It's definitely in my top. Let's see. Okay, I'll rank the cities that I like in Ukraine. Yeah, because I'm going to get a lot of backlash maybe. I don't know. But okay, Kyiv, number 1. Number 2, I would say, Lviv, then Dnipro, Odessa. Then 5, I guess. 5, let's throw in a wild card. I will say Rivne. Bam. Those are my cities, guys. Take me down. But, okay, so next. McDonald's or Puzata Hata?
Puzata Hata.
Even if Puzata Hata?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I like lived there.
You lived there,
my
okay.
first week
No,
here.
I love Puzata Hata as well. And everyone that comes to Ukraine as a foreign person, they go to Puzata Hata and they tend to love it.
Yeah.
So what do you usually get?
Oh, I get like the grilled chicken. I like the vareniki. The chicken ones.
Oh,
Yeah. Dumplings. And they have so many like vegetables and salads and like all this like healthy stuff. I like it in the soups.
Yeah. McDonald's has healthy stuff too. They have a salad, I think. French fries or vegetables.
Yeah, the best. I always go to McDonald's for the salads.
Exactly. I'm watching my weights.
I haven't tried it here. I know McDonald's is generally much better abroad than it is in America. Like I think the quality.
Well, it's different ingredients as well. I think I saw like a video about how there's activists in the U.S. and they're questioning corporate greed on why are our ingredients in the same products different than what is going on in Europe. It's like much healthier. So you guys are creating 2 variations, send the healthier one to Europe, and you're sending like kind of the worst one, keeping it in the country.
Because they have regulations. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same with like Coca-Cola, right? The Coke in Mexico is actually much better. Yeah.
Whoa.
Actually, because there's some special ingredients. They use actual cane sugar as opposed to high fructose.
Oh yeah, we use
syrup.
high fructose corn syrup in everything in the U.S. It seems like.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. So we're so big.
Slowly kill you.
Exactly. That's all right. It's too many of us. So 330 million.
Oh, that's true. It's for the environment.
Yeah, it's for the environment. Exactly.
It's
not corporate greed. They're trying to save the planet. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Very insightful, Lakshmi.
If there's one takeaway from this podcast, everyone should leave with, it's that.
Suicide by obesity. Okay, got it. Okay, and last question. New Bedford or Kyiv?
Kyiv.
Oh, wow. And what would you say to all the New Bedford people watching it?
They would probably also say Kyiv.
Never been to Kyiv, but I agree.
Okay, I think a better comparison is maybe like Kyiv versus Boston.
Okay.
Because New Bedford is just like a smaller city. Like, there's just so much more to do in
What's the
Kyiv.
population?
Like 100,000,
100,000.
maybe something like this.
Wow, it's not that big at all.
No, it has a really interesting history though. Like
What's
it
the
used to be the
history?
whaling capital of the world, so it was one of the richest cities
Oh
in the
wow,
world. But whaling
it's not a thing
died,
anymore.
and
Yeah,
yeah, so
because the whales died.
Bedford's recovering still.
Whales died, so then whaling dies. Okay. So,
But it has a really beautiful downtown, and yeah, interesting. It's an interesting place.
no, I'm always very like I always romanticize kind of the northeastern, like I guess New England part of the U.S. because I'm from like
Yeah.
Los Angeles,
Yeah.
and we always learn about it. 13 colonies and the history and the old buildings. I always
Yeah,
romanticize
yeah.
it. Yeah, so I understand the history is rich there. Never lived there. I visited New England maybe a couple times. Yeah, nothing too much to leave like a impression on like if I want to live there or if what the life is really like.
Yeah, yeah.
But I heard like Boston's really nice.
Boston's a cool city.
It's a cool
Yeah.
city? Okay.
I would still choose Kyiv, but also I've just spent so much time in Boston, like, and I like new things. If you can't tell, I like to explore
Can
new
you do it in a
places.
Boston accent? Because I don't hear a Boston accent on you.
I used to have a little bit of one. Like I would drop the R's, like
How does it
Park my
sound?
car and Harvard Yard. Yep. I got rid of that though. I don't. It's not the most attractive accent in the world.
I like it. If you could talk like that the rest of the podcast, I would really enjoy it.
When I get angry, sometimes it comes out. So if you say something to piss me off, then maybe.
Okay, well, I'll try my best to piss you off. Okay, so let's get into why you're in Ukraine. So you've traveled to 76 countries,
Yeah.
and I guess you're making a stop in Ukraine to see what it's like. You said you were only going to spend a few days here, and you end up staying a month. So why did you stay a month?
Yeah. First of all, I wasn't even gonna come to Ukraine. I went to a wedding in Warsaw. My friends were getting married there, and then I looked at a map and I was like, "Oh, Ukraine is right there." And I was like, "What is Ukraine?" I don't actually know a whole lot about the country, but it's a place I see all the time in the news now. So I was like, "Okay, well, maybe I'll go." And I met a Ukrainian at the wedding who was like, "Well, you can take the train." So, yeah, I took the train like 2 days later. Went to Kyiv, and I stayed for a whole month because Ukraine is massive. A few days is not enough. I mean, a few days in any country is really just like nothing, right? Like you don't. I feel like it takes a few days just to like start talking to people, like figure out, just like what the general vibe is, and then from there, I usually just like see, I don't know, who tells me to go where.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes like social media actually just like opens up opportunities in that way. So like I post and stuff, and then people are like, "Come here, go there." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, no, I've been following your journey like on Instagram, and you've gone to a lot of interesting places, even places that, I haven't been to because I feel like in a lot of ways it's kind of like unsafe.
Yeah.
And you went to these
Yeah.
places, like for example, Kherson. We'll talk about that like a bit later. But you went to like Kherson, and you also went
Did.
to Kharkiv, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other frontline cities or just areas affected by the war that you've been to as well? Or
No, it was those two, and then from there I went to Mykolaiv, Odessa,
Mykolaiv? Okay.
Lviv.
Oh, nice. And okay, so before we get like really deep into Ukraine, let's talk about what you're doing because I was researching you. I guess we can call it stalking if it wasn't for work. Yeah. So you were the valedictorian of your high school.
I was, yeah.
So there's a brain under all that dark hair, huh?
There was once a brain.
Once a brain.
Where it's now, I
Yeah,
don't
we
know.
went to Ukraine and just people are questioning that brain now.
Yeah.
Is it still there? Yeah, and then you also went to Harvard for computer science, right?
I did. Yes.
And then you also worked at Google.
Yes, yes.
Wow. Tell me about all this. Are you wicked smart or something?
That was a good
I
Boston
know,
accent.
I was trying my best.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I always liked a lot of different things too. It's like I loved math, science. I started programming when I was at Harvard, and I was like, "Oh, this is so fun!" And then I was doing that. I studied it, and then worked as an engineer in New York at Google, and then I was working at a different startup. I also have like a bajillion other different interests. So I loved my life as a software engineer, and I don't know, maybe I'll go back to tech one day, but I also really like creative things. I was interested in like journalism before, and I don't know, I was like, let's see what else I can do with my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did your travel blog start then?
In quarantine. So when the pandemic hit, I was working at a startup in New York. I was an early engineer at a cool startup. And then I wanted to leave New York, though. I had been there for years at this point. And then when my office closed, I was like, this might be my last chance to get out. So I booked a flight to Colombia, and I didn't know anybody there. I ended up at this Airbnb in Santa Marta, like just like locked in this Airbnb for like 6 weeks. It was nice though. It was like penthouse on the beach because, you know, no one else is like renting anything. But yeah, I was like, I had a lot of free time. And I like to travel to a lot of unique places. And then in the last few years from that time, like I had videos and I was like, I want to do something with this stuff. Now, finally, someone has told me I need to stay home because like in New York, I feel like between work and like socializing and like just all these different things, I never get around to, all these creative things I like to do. So I started making videos about Congo. Actually, this is the first video that I made because I traveled there, and these did well and I enjoyed it. So I kept doing it while I was working remotely as an engineer for a couple of years. And now I probably spend more of my time actually doing.
Do you edit your own videos?
Yeah, I edit. I do everything myself.
Yeah, because I watched a couple of your videos. You have a lot of videos. I didn't have a chance to watch them all. But I watched a couple of your videos. And one thing that I really like about it is your narration style. I really like it. It really kind of sets the tone like at the beginning of your videos. And, you know, the editing, you know, it seems like very, you know, well produced, you know, good production value.
Yes.
What software do you use to edit your videos?
I do a lot of it on my phone, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I use Video Leap and CapCut. I go
okay.
between the two. CapCut is free. Video Leap, I think you need to pay for. I got on the trial and then I never canceled it, so I forgot. So now I have this app, and I like it. I like it better than CapCut, I think, or maybe I'm just used to it at this point.
Yeah.
But you can accomplish everything you want with CapCut. For anybody who's watching and is like, do I need to pay for editing software? No, you can like do a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think what makes people kind of attracted to your content is your narration style and like your perspective. You're a very intelligent girl. Like I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I can learn something from your videos.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
That is exactly what I want people to
And this is great. It's not just
yeah.
there was like this kind of there was this guy, he came to Ukraine. He's like a TikTok guy from the UK. And I saw him on the street once and he had like this horrible content. It's like, oh, I mean, like this market, look it, they have this thing, it has this thing inside. Oh, I don't like it. Ew. And he has like hundreds of thousands of views on it. I'm like, I'm not learning anything from this.
Yeah.
I'm just learning that this guy doesn't like that food. Like, this is all I'm learning. But with your content, I'm like, oh, wow. It's like, I don't know, you're just bringing people closer to whatever country or topic you're talking about, which is really nice. You have a really good narration style. So yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, so let's talk about when you first came to Ukraine. So you went from Warsaw after the wedding.
Yes.
And then you took a train from Warsaw.
Yes.
And what was your experience crossing the border? Did they give you any troubles?
No, I was actually surprised how chill it was. So you take a train to Dorhusk, the border city.
Okay, yeah.
I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. And then you hop on another train and then go to Kyiv. Like, they just looked at my passport.
American,
stamped it. They didn't check my bag.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I thought this was going to be...
Well, if you have weapons in your bag, it's fine.
Yeah. I guess maybe I just don't fit the profile of like potential spy.
Yeah, exactly. And so you just plan to stay in Kyiv, right? Just stay Kyiv for a few days. And you said like one thing led to another.
Yeah. I mean, I usually do this where I just go and then I see. Because you don't really know, like, I don't know. Before I go to a country, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I know a lot of people like to plan. I am not a planner. I am a see what happens and go with the flow kind of person. And if I don't know anybody in a country too, it's all about just like, okay, let's just see who I meet. And then if things end up being interesting, then go from there.
Yeah, you told me before that you didn't really know much about Ukraine before you came, but Ukraine is like a hot topic in politics these days, especially in the US. You know, one candidate says, you know, we should end the war in Ukraine, we should stop supporting. Another candidate says we need to continue to support Ukraine. I think you know which candidate is saying which. So what did you know about Ukraine before you came, you know, in this kind of political sphere?
Yeah. Of course, I've heard about the war. And I mean, there was no part of me that thought that Russia had any right to invade Ukraine, but I had heard various talking points from both sides. And actually I traveled more like in the Middle East, and I was in the Horn of Africa before this. South Asia. So I heard talking points that they were hearing as well. And I will say that actually coming here, learning a lot more about it, like really diving into it, a lot of what I heard was not correct. And I came in just, I think people have a lot of skepticism. It's always good to go into anything with healthy amount of skepticism. But I think like a lot of Americans have seen the wars that America has gotten into, particularly in the Middle East, whether it was like Iraq with the weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist, or Afghanistan that was like $1 trillion,
The investment into nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. We replaced the Taliban with the Taliban.
Yeah,
Great.
congrats, mission accomplished.
Yeah. So people don't have that much confidence in America's foreign policy. You don't know whether or not America's actually doing the right thing or just saying like, oh, we're defending democracy. It's like, okay, yeah, but you said that before.
Yeah.
So with Ukraine, I was like, well, I don't know what's actually true or like what's not true is, I've heard things like, well, NATO is the aggressor. And this was actually the problem. So like Putin just had to respond to that.
Is this the narrative that you heard in the US?
I mean, not from everybody. Like, I think as you've seen, it's like very divided.
Yeah.
Right. But
Massachusetts is like pretty blue. It's like dark blue.
Massachusetts is so blue.
Yeah.
Like I will go vote, but it will not do anything.
Say I'm Californian, basically the same.
Yeah,
Maybe local
exactly.
elections may be different, but yeah.
But I haven't been in America for like the last year and a half. And I was home. I went and visited for like a couple of months. But I spent a lot of time, like I was in India. I went to Pakistan, Afghanistan, Saudi, Egypt, Sudan. And I was in war in Sudan. So then like Ethiopia, Djibouti, Somalia, all over. Yeah. And then I went back to the United States. So I don't know the algorithm on like social media or like just even the things that come up on Google actually. It adjusts to your location. So you see different news and you see different things. And I also do try to like, I don't know, not just read from like one perspective. So yeah, I've just like seen these talking points come up. From who exactly it was, I don't know, but I know people say these things. And it's not always like clear what the truth is, right? You have to actually go and search for the information yourself because a lot of people say things like very confidently, and sometimes it can make some sense based on America's like past performance in other conflicts. But let's say like with the NATO part, saying like, oh, well, Ukraine was trying to join NATO and that's just basically like putting a military base right on Russia's border. And what would people would say, okay, how would Americans feel if Russia put like a military base right on the border in Mexico? Like that's an aggression. It's like, okay, well, I mean, that could make sense maybe. And then you like actually look at the facts and it's like, okay, well, first of all, the Baltic states have already been in NATO since 2004. So obviously he doesn't care that much about it. And it wasn't like these states were trying to join NATO before. They're joining NATO after they feel like Russia's going to invade. And then there's, of course, Georgia, which I like kind of forgot about. Also, like funny fact when that was happening in America, I still remember the tweets that came out, like Americans thinking that Russia was invading America.
I know. I see this Quora question on the forum, and it was like, I heard the Russians are invading Georgia. I'm in Atlanta. I don't see anything. Should I be worried?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were talking about, the U.S., they have a questionable kind of foreign policy, especially with like their history of going into wars that are kind of unjustified. But it was like, I think it was a Winston Churchill quote. It's like, you could always trust Americans to do the right thing when all other options are exhausted.
Yeah. But you know what the thing is that when you look at most countries' foreign policies, especially if they have any sort of power, they're all shit. I don't know if I have to bleep that out or something, but
that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, like if you look at geopolitics, like no one's good. Just like no one's good. So I think a problem that people have is they say, okay, well, America has been evil in many instances throughout history. And this is true. But then you think, well, okay, then like the enemy of my enemy is good.
Mhm.
And so this is a problem because no, if you look at then like, say Russia's foreign policy, it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
this is not better. Like we can critique each one in like different instances. But you can't trust anybody. Really, people are acting in self-interest. And also like every conflict is different. So you have to like look at it in isolation too.
Mhm.
So what was I saying? Oh yeah, what did I think about the war?
Yeah.
From the beginning. So yeah, and I also just like didn't know where it was going. I didn't really know much about what happened with I knew there was a revolution, 2014. I've heard things saying that it's like, oh, it's a Western-backed coup. I've heard this.
Yeah. It's the Russian narrative.
Yeah. But America has been responsible for coups around the world. So it's like, it's a believable narrative unless you like talk to people or you do more digging and then you see, okay, well, no, actually there was a lot of people here that were like really behind this. To say that it was a Western-backed coup is like very, very, very reductionist.
And there was like this guy on my podcast before, Ignatius. So he's like half British and half Russian. And he was talking about Russian disinformation. He said, how it works is they just like plant a seed. Like you don't have to believe what they said, but if there's like a small percentage chance that it might sound kind of true, then they got you. Because once you start thinking that, it kind of could make sense that America backs like, the Ukrainians and this is like a coup, then they got you. And now you're gonna like, go down this rabbit hole of not trusting, the Western media. And now you're just susceptible to this Russian disinformation. And this is like their whole goal. As long as one thing resonates with you, they can say like a million lies, but if 1,000,001, the 1,000,001 is the one that you kind of fall for, then their work is done.
Yeah, and everybody plays this game, right? Everyone's doing that, and depending on like which country you go to, there's outside influences that are trying to paint different narratives and influence people to support the leaders that support them.
Exactly.
But then I'm like, okay, but how trustworthy is like Putin and Russia? What I
trust him with my life.
Yeah. What was so wild to me was seeing that like right before they invaded, the number of times they said so like blatantly, we would never invade Ukraine. And then I saw even after they invaded, they were saying we didn't invade. I was like, no, like it just happened. How can you deny when it just happened? You blitzkrieged the capital. It's like, it's not a defensive military operation.
Who are you gonna believe, me or your dirty lying eyes?
Yeah. And then, then you read about how like, well, they backed separatist groups in the East. And
do you know who Simon Ostrovsky is?
No.
He's this journalist, and he was working for Vice for a bit. And in 2014, he did this like investigative journalist series on this coup that was going on in eastern Ukraine, as well as the annexation of Crimea. And he documents every single day up until it's basically the borders are reinforced and it's like a stalemate. And it's super interesting to see kind of every day how it progressed into what it is now. But I would definitely recommend it. I think it's called Ukraine Report or something like this. But yeah, I'll share a link with you like later. But Simon Ostrovsky does a really good job. He's a Canadian-Russian journalist. But anyway, so let's talk about, so you came to Ukraine by train. What were your first impressions when you were in Kyiv? Like any different, like any culture shock? I know it's a European country, so there's not like a big culture shock from like North America or something like this. But
yeah.
What were your impressions?
I definitely felt like very much at home. I arrived in the middle of the night. Like right before curfew was about to start. And I ended up booking a hostel because I was like, maybe there'll be people there. And there was a lot of Americans there.
Yeah, of course.
So I met all these Americans that are like volunteering and doing various work here. And when I explored Kyiv, like, a lot of it is just, it feels very comfortable. Culture shock. Putting sour cream on everything. I don't know. What is it? Smetana?
Smetana.
Yeah. It's growing on me. It's growing on me.
Yeah, I have like this viral video of where I was just making this joke about putting smetana on everything, and it had like 3.5 million views like on Instagram. And then my friend, she gave me like I guess the name Ambassador of Smetana, so I have it like on my Instagram page. But yeah, no, it's true. They put smetana on everything. And when I was in the US, I didn't like sour cream. I'm in Ukraine. I love it. I put it on everything as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not there yet, but I
Stay here long enough. Yeah.
Yeah, actually,
you'll be eating it from like the can, just smetana.
Oh God. Today I just had lunch, and then I asked them for chili sauce, which I know they're not going to have, but I got like olive oil.
Even black pepper is too spicy for them. Yeah. That's one thing about, like, you said you're Indian, right? Like your parents or something like this.
Yeah.
So Indian, I was in India for about a month, and I love Indian food. I love the spices they use and how it all comes together. Ukrainian food, I love it. It's healthy, but I just feel like you could do like a little bit more. They could add a little more spices to their dishes. What's your favorite Ukrainian food?
My favorite Ukrainian food.
I know you went to Buzata Hata, you told me. You get like the borscht, you get like the
I
cutlets.
like the borscht. I like that. I like the dumplings / vareniki.
Oh yeah, vareniki. Yeah, you told me vareniki. That's right.
Or when I had borscht when I was in Kharkiv, they're like, okay, no, you have to have it with vodka.
Yeah.
Horilka.
Horilka.
These are the words I remember. I remember that, and I remember bujmo.
Budmo.
Bujmo.
Budmo.
Yeah. Actually, fun fact. I thought that meant like, how are you? Like Dobre day. I thought I confused the two. So when I was greeting someone, I was like, Bujmo.
Budmo. And they're like, okay. Cheers.
Yeah, so like had the vodka and then like the borscht. It's fun.
Oh no, it's really. Have you been to like maybe like a family dinner in Ukraine or something like this? Because typically the family dinners are so fun. Like maybe like the wife or like the babushka cooks a lot of food, and then everyone is just taking shots of vodka while they're eating, saying toast. Like, I don't know.
No,
it's a really
I
fun
haven't.
experience. Yeah.
I haven't yet.
Yeah. No, my ex-girlfriend, her father used to make they call it samohon. Do you know what samohon is? It's basically like Ukrainian moonshine. So they make it like at home. And so he used to make it, and I remember we used to always try it out to see if it's good. But we were trying it out all the time. It's like, we tried it out and the whole bottle's gone. Yeah. But no, it's really fun because you know what salo is? Salo? Salo, it's like basically pig fats that is like
yes. I tried this
yeah.
in Kharkiv.
Yeah, so they do like salo, like little pickles, and then like the hidolka.
With mustard.
Mustard, yeah.
Yeah, I like mustard. So I like this.
I'm not the biggest fan. Yeah, I'll stick with pig fat and vodka and horilka, okay? Ew, mustard.
I like to try things when I come to places, but I don't eat red meat much.
You don't eat red meat?
Not generally. I did try this.
Well, that's good. Salo is white, you know, 'cause it's fat.
True.
Yeah, exactly. Duh. Yeah, but okay. The Ukrainian food, amazing. Tell me about your trip around Ukraine. We'll start with Kharkiv. I've actually never been to Kharkiv.
Oh.
A lot of my friends invite me to Kharkiv to go.
Yeah.
I'm a little uneasy about, going, to this eastern part. I took like a stop the bleed course. I have a tourniquet like on me, like at all times, like just in case. But yeah, tell me about your trip to Kharkiv. Like, what was your experience like?
Yeah, I hopped on a train. I went there when I first arrived. Actually, it was really funny because the GPS gets screwed up
of course.
when you're there. So I was like immediately lost, just like wandering on the street. I was like, wait, I thought I've been walking for 15 minutes. How did I end up like back here? Did I go in the wrong direction? Which I do a lot. So I was like, oh, yeah. And then I was like, okay, now I'm definitely closer to the border. Clearly,
a lot of jamming.
Yeah, which doesn't happen here in Kyiv, or I haven't seen it.
Oh no, it doesn't really happen at all.
Yeah.
So how long were you in Kharkiv?
I was there for 4 days.
4 days?
Yeah.
And did you experience any any attacks on the city while you were there?
Yeah. One night I stayed in the city center, and then there was an explosion, and I could see it from my window.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I saw like the huge plume of
Did you see like the
fire,
rocket or the
smoke.
drone land, or just like the explosion after?
I just saw the explosion after.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So how did you feel when you saw this? Did you understand like this country is at war?
Yeah, which I definitely understood it before. When you see it, it's definitely a little bit, it's more like, okay. But that one I saw in my face, But prior to that, they're still happening, right? Like, and I was in like the Telegram group. You see all of the messages about like, okay, like ballistic missiles like coming here, like all of this, and I think the reality of that definitely hits you. I would say actually the messages going through, you really see like, damn, like people's lives have really changed.
Yeah.
Even though people go about their day like it's normal to some extent, like if you're just there for a few days, in some ways it might seem like, oh, it's like normal, people going to a cafe. But I describe it like the This Is Fine meme.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
the happy dog, and then there's
burning,
like the apartment is like kind of burning.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit like that in a way. Like you're sitting at a cafe and there's an air raid siren, and then there's an explosion, and you can hear it. And if you don't hear it, then like you're seeing the messages go through. But it's like so routine for people since now it's like over 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay.
And it's so sad. People will become numb to it. Like honestly,
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Like I'm a bit numb to it as well. Air alarms are going on, not as much as Kharkiv, but in Kyiv they're going on like a lot. I hear stuff sometimes, and unless I see like on my Telegram group that there's a massive attack like in Kyiv, then I probably will just not go to the bunker or the shelter or something like this. It's very irresponsible on my part, but it's just you get so numb to it after a while when this is like your reality.
You can't live in the shelter because like they go off a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Especially like in the eastern regions, and you don't really have that much time from like the air alarm to when there is an attack, especially in Kharkiv because the border is very close.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like everyone has a bomb shelter in their basement, like not even close. So like, there's no way you're gonna make it there. You actually just need to, probably like stay in your house.
Yeah. So when you're in Kharkiv, did you meet any locals there?
I did. Yeah. This is one.
Oh, whoa. And who is that?
There's another one
with the Sacramento shirt on.
Yeah. There were these two girls there, and they took me around the city for a couple of days. They were so great, really fun, really sweet. And then her uncle owns a clothing shop.
Oh, nice.
So like,
and this is the shirt that they sell?
Yeah. You can buy this now. One day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. What is her name?
Julie.
What?
This is Julie.
Julie. Oh, nice. And Julie lives in Kharkiv, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So how'd you meet them then? You just on the street or through Instagram or?
These two are from Instagram. Well, so my follower contacted a friend who had friends.
Oh, okay.
who are in the city.
Okay, I'm following.
I think this is their friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So, when you were meeting people in Kharkiv, did anybody tell you a story that kind of like impacted you? Because I have like friends from Kharkiv, and not Kharkiv city, but Kharkiv Oblast, like the region. And a lot of them had to like leave their homes. A lot of them, had their homes like, attacked. So it seems like a lot of people from these eastern areas have like, stories that, are very sad. Have you come across any of this, while you're in Kharkiv?
Yeah. I heard a story from a mother, and she had lived like down in the metro station. And she was like, we were basically like down living there, like when the invasion was first happening. I think they were there for like a month or something.
A month, wow.
Yeah, just like going in and out from there, and like people were bringing food, and like, yeah, okay, maybe like that is not happening at this very moment, but then like schools are all closed, and then like her kids are like, how do you explain to kids what's happening?
Yeah.
And also like the closer you get to the east, the more they have family members too that are on the Russian side.
Yeah.
And this is also something I think about a lot, like where people just like don't speak anymore, because from what I've heard from people is like whoever has family on the Russian side, they've pretty much kind of like bought into whatever narrative is being told in Russia.
Yeah. Well, obviously you wouldn't live in Russia if you didn't condone what they're doing.
Well, I mean, people have to live where they live. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, but if you're living on Ukrainian kind of territory.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, like the ones that have family that like were living in Russia.
Oh yeah,
You
of
know?
course, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ones that are like in occupied, the occupied areas, yeah, all of them,
Yeah.
they wouldn't choose to live in Russia.
Yeah, yeah. No, because I have there are people that live in occupied areas that
Yeah.
don't support Russia. I agree, but if you actively move to Russia from your area that is occupied instead of going to the Ukrainian side, this is kind of, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not a good look to
No,
say the
no.
least.
Yeah.
Yeah, but because you can move into Russia for safety. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I had a friend. She's from Kharkiv, and she's actually in the military right now, and her flat was in the gray zone once they invaded Kharkiv. They made that big push for Kharkiv, and her parents decided to go to Russia for safety,
Mm.
and she basically doesn't talk to them anymore. And so she came to the Ukrainian side, and she ended up, you know, being a medic. She's a volunteer
Mhm.
medic right now, instructor. And yeah, she has an interesting story because both her parents are like Russian sympathizers, I guess. And but
Mm.
she doesn't talk to them at all anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's really crazy. And I knew a girl. Her father was from Odessa. This girl's from Odessa, and her mom's from Odessa as well. And the girl's dad he's from originally from Russia, born there, but they moved to Ukraine and Soviet Union like years and years ago. Got married, had a family, whatever.
Mhm.
The dad has a twin. Twin lives in Russia,
Mhm.
and it's just so crazy because like one lives in Russia, one lives in Ukraine. They're twins, and the one in Russia is very kind of apolitical, doesn't really care about what's going on. But it's like this complacency is complicit, and the dad almost, he can get drafted, to the military of Ukraine like at any time, and then he'll be fighting against the government that his twin brother supports, I guess,
Yeah.
whether it's passively. And it's such a crazy dynamic that this family has to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
You see this with India, Pakistan.
Mhm.
You know, once you go to Punjab areas around the border where families have been divided, and now it's been like generations.
yeah. Yeah, I guess it would be like something similar to that because it was like one nation before, right? And then like the English left and then they kind of split. I don't know the history exactly, then they split it.
Yeah, they
And then it
split
was
it, and then it was
Pakistan,
divided
like
along
east.
religion. But the way that the border was drawn was like really haphazardly done too. Like 1 million people died actually in the aftermath of like the creation of the border because like people were just like didn't know where to go, and so it was crazy. And yeah, if you were on this side of the line and your family was on the other side of the line, now you're forever split because like you can't go to Pakistan as an Indian
Mhm.
and vice versa.
You still can't.
No.
Wow.
You some like very few people can get some like special permission. It'll take like maybe a year to get that visa through if you have family.
Mhm.
So if you have close relatives that live in India and you're from Pakistan or vice versa, then you can apply. And then but they have like a police person who's checking in with you the whole time. They're like monitoring you.
Yeah.
So it's very, very difficult and not possible for most people.
Yeah. So you are by Indian descent, and have you been to Pakistan? I think you said you have, right?
I have, yeah.
And how'd that work? Because you were born in the U.S.
American passport.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they don't really care other generation.
Going into Pakistan, no.
Okay. Yeah, because I have friends. So when I was living in Georgia for like 3 months, I knew a guy. He was half Georgian, half Russian.
Yeah.
No, excuse me, half Georgian, half Armenian.
Mm.
And I told him like, because of your last name, you're not allowed to go to Azerbaijan because they're very strict on Armenians coming to Azerbaijan.
Yeah,
so he's like,
was
even
just
if he
there.
doesn't have like an Armenian like passport or something like this, he can never go because of his last name is Armenian. Yeah, and they're very strict on it.
Yeah,
so it's
this
not-
is like very active
yeah.
conflict too. I was in Azerbaijan and Armenia recently. Like,
Oh, recently, okay.
yeah, before coming to this part, I was in the Caucasus.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I used to live like in Tbilisi for 3 months. I was working at a hostel, just like volunteering with my ex-girlfriend. And then we made a trip to Armenia as well. We went to we camped at Savan Lake Savan, and we went to the capital was Yerevan as well. Yerevan I
yeah.
actually quite liked. I really
Yeah.
liked Yerevan. And then we also hitchhiked to Baku. So we went from like
Oh,
Tbilisi to like Baku.
yeah.
But I went all over Georgia. Georgia is such a beautiful country. I've been to Georgia.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
spent like 5 days there. Took a car up to Svaneti. I actually
Svaneti,
picked
okay,
up hitchhikers.
Yeah, no, Svaneti is beautiful.
Yeah,
It's
it
very
was so
beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah.
hmm
Did you go to Ushguli? Because a lot of people go to Svaneti and then they take like that hike to Ushguli, which is
Yeah,
the
I
southern.
didn't have time. Unfortunately, I got to go back to Georgia.
Yeah, no,
It's small, but there's like so much there.
it's very diverse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been to Kazbegi, like the mountain that's just north of Tbilisi?
No.
No, it's also quite beautiful. Yeah. And then the beaches, we were camping on this beach just north of Batumi. It's called Ureki. So we were there for like a couple of weeks, just camping. We met a Belarusian couple, and yeah, that was really nice. I really enjoyed Georgia. I always recommend people should definitely go see it. I don't know if you experienced this, but the hospitality there is second to none. People there are very nice. The food is delicious.
The food is great. Yeah.
It's just fatty, a lot of bread, a lot of cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's delicious. I love Georgian food. Even I'm so glad that Ukraine has this big Georgian influence. There's Georgian foods like in every Georgian
I
restaurants in
see
every
the restaurants
corner. Yeah.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I wish the U.S. had more Georgian restaurants.
Yeah. I don't know why we don't.
Yeah, it's too far. I don't know.
Maybe it's because of the state of Georgia.
State of Georgia, I'm really confused. Like, is it soul food? What is this?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, okay. And so you were in Kharkiv, and then you spent 4 days there, and then you went to Kherson afterward, or what was your next
Yeah.
destination?
Yeah.
Kherson directly afterward.
Yeah.
And how was Kherson? Because Kherson is even more damaged, right?
Yeah. I mean, this isn't a place like you can just go. There's like checkpoints there. Like Kharkiv, I could just hop on a train from Kyiv,
Yeah.
and then I can just be in the city. But to go to Kherson, there was an NGO that invited me, and so then I could only go like with them. There's military checkpoints, and yeah, I mean, it used to be occupied. Last year, it was liberated, but like, right across the river, this is occupied by Russia. So there is. It's not like an active ground fighting, but there's artillery fire and drone warfare. Like it's like kind of constant.
Yeah. This guy I know, Kalen. He's actually gonna be a guest soon on my podcast as well. He's a journalist from Scotland, and he was in Kherson recently, like last week, and there was a drone following him. Like he'd hear the buzzing. He did like a video of him running from tree to tree to get cover. Yeah, it's very surreal. I remember I had a guest on my podcast, Sean Pinner. So he was captured in Mariupol. He was sentenced to death in the DNR, and then he was involved in a prisoner exchange. Anyway, he was telling me when he was trying to escape his encirclement. So there's like 3 things you could do. You can fight your way out to like the death or something like this. You can just surrender, or you can try to escape. So he's like, okay, I'm just gonna try to escape the encirclement. And then he was going from building to building, and he's like, dude, it was like the movie Terminator. There was, you're hiding in the building, and all of a sudden you see a drone come in, and it's looking in all the windows. If the window's blown out, it goes inside a little bit, looks around, sees anybody there. He's like, dude, it was like Terminator. Like, how the drones kind of have evolved, like Skynet or something like this.
There was like there was a drone. There's an explosion like actually not far from my hotel when I was in Kherson. And at night, that was actually when I was there. That was the first time I was like, this is hard to sleep through.
Yeah.
Like this is like constant artillery fire, and then the air raid siren is loud, and I was like, maybe I go to the basement.
Yeah. It's not. I mean, it's a good idea, especially like in Kherson. Like I've been to Kherson before the war. Honestly, it wasn't really my city. But I used to vacation in Skadovsk, which is like the city south of Kherson, but it's in Kherson Oblast region, and it's like it's right on the Black Sea. And then below that, there's like this island called Zharohach, and it's like the biggest island in the Black Sea. I used to go there with my ex. We used to go camping on the islands, and we stay in Skadovsk, nice beach city. Unfortunately, all that is occupied now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't been back to Kherson since 2021. So it was like a year before the invasion. Since 2021, I would like to go check it out, but I know it's incredibly unsafe right now, especially from what my friend Kaylin said. About the drones and the air alarms, and what you're saying right now about explosions.
Yeah, it's it's also just, I think, day-to-day life becomes difficult. Like 7 or 8 p.m. is curfew, so like
Yeah.
it's not even dinner time. There's, I think, 70,000 residents there now.
Hmm.
Like people have been returning since it was freed. Used to be like 300,000. A lot of like elderly people who just like don't want to leave or can't leave. There's like some life in places, some like market areas, and people kind of like walking around freely. But then also it's like a half ghost town in parts. And when we went up like closer to the river, there's like so much, a lot of it is destroyed.
Hmm.
I saw their mall, which I guess was the largest in that part of Ukraine.
Hmm.
Like everyone used to come to, and it's like totally demolished. And so there's a lot of that, which is sad. But at the same time, it's nice to see that has been liberated. Like it was nice to see that there is progress that's happened, because also, with the war now it being like 2.5 years, yeah, like I can look at maps that they show in like the news, but like I don't actually know like, okay, what's been happening,
Hmm.
And it's nice to see that there are at least some places where things have improved, and I think that's good.
Yeah, based on your experiences like in Kharkiv and Kherson, what is something that you wish more people knew about, these cities and cities closer to the front line in Ukraine, or just about the war in general?
Mm. Mm. I think with the war in general, I think a lot of people there's some people who like underestimate some of the things that are happening, maybe based on like what they see in like other parts of Ukraine or something. And the reality in the East it's sad. And there's a lot of things too that like I didn't really think about that will really have an effect for many years, like the mining,
Hmm.
right? Like that's huge. And Ukraine has so much to offer to the world. I mean, I know it's the breadbasket of Europe
Hmm.
and like how many people it feeds and all of
Hmm.
this. And like the amount of the area in the East is important. It's important for the world. And yeah, I mean, it sucks what's happening, but also it's not like a lost cause kind of war either. Cause I also did see a lot of people that like, yes, people are tired, but they're also, I really admire how people really want to fight for their country, and how I think there's still like a lot of hope. So I think it's really cool. And I think people should like remember that.
Yeah, there definitely is a lot of hope. Did you meet any military people when you're out there?
I did.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. I met military people who, well, not like serving like right now,
Hmm.
but who had, especially when I was in Kherson. I couldn't like film them.
No, of course,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's when I knew that they were military people, and they'd be like, no, 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 put your phone down. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, so go to jail.
Yeah.
Gulag.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the stories are rough. It's, I think, when you wonder like why, like what happened when these areas were occupied, what happened to people who stayed, right? Like this is a problem. Why we can't just like surrender those areas and like, okay, now they'll go like be in Russia. It didn't work like that, because now they're arresting anybody who they think might have worked with Ukraine, which would be a lot of the people because they're in Ukraine, right? So yeah, I mean, I was hearing a lot of those stories, and
Yeah, I mean, yeah, since I was living in Ukraine in 2015, I got really interested in, the conflict. The war started in 2014. This is basically a continuation of it.
yeah,
But yeah, like a full scale continuation. And when I was watching this documentary series with this Simon Ostrovsky guy, it was a really sad episode. So he's in, I think it was Luhansk, It may have been Donetsk, but
Mm-hmm.
one of these kind of eastern, capitals of
Yeah.
Donbass. And there was these Ukrainians, and they were like protesting because they want to be part of Ukraine. And these separatists, they called them, uh, you know, came to the city and they're flying their Russian flag. Sure, there's some people from DNR that want to be part of Russia, but
Mm-hmm.
when they interviewing the Ukrainians, they're saying like, we never seen these people in our lives, and we have certain words we use in Donbass, like Luhansk, Donetsk. And these people that came, they speak with a different accent. They're using different words that we don't use like in our day-to-day life. So we understand that they're not from our city. They are from, Russia. And they're just
Yeah.
coming over here to start trouble. And so there was this one episode where it showed like the Ukrainians, they're doing like this kind of rally that they want to be part of Ukraine. They want to show people that this is still
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine. And then there was like Russians like across the way, and they're becoming more aggressive as like the rally goes on. And then the night starts to fall, and then more Russians start to come. They surround the Ukrainians, and they can't escape, and they
Mm.
start beating all of the Ukrainians. Yeah, and it was like super sad to watch. And this is basically what it is. If you are a proud Ukrainian, if you're Ukrainian, you have to do it in silence, or they'll just find you. Maybe they'll execute you, maybe they'll torture you, maybe they'll beat you. But yeah, it's really sad because you can't be a Ukrainian in these areas, at least outwardly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is, I understood this from 2015 when I moved to Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, it's just really sad, and my heart goes out to all the Ukrainians that are under occupation right now. I remember seeing this campaign. I believe it was by United 24, which is this media English language media company here in Ukraine, and they talk about the Ukrainian experience, Ukrainian news, and all of this. And they had like this one series where they showed pictures of everybody, like not people, but pictures in different occupied areas where people said, it was like a post-it notes, and they showed like the background is Crimea. It says Crimea is Ukraine. Another one is Melitopol is Ukraine, which is also an occupied city. Mariupol is Ukraine, and they're showing the post-it notes in front of like the damaged areas of their cities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so sad because these people, they want to live a normal life. They want to be under Ukrainian rule, but unfortunately they can't, and they can't speak up about what is going on because they'll be in, I don't know, they could be executed or tortured or even worse. I don't know. I just feel really bad for these people, and they're outnumbered at this point because there's so much Russian security in these areas.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all just very sad to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like it's really, really tough. And I can see why you don't want to live like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, exactly. I mean, because I used to live in Kotlebinski, which is like this. It's like it's Kyiv region, but it's not part of Kyiv city. It's like this enclave, so there's surrounded by Kyiv. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
it's just north of here. It's near like Irpin and Bucha
Mm.
areas, and that's area I was living because I went to Mukacheva like a week before. Mukacheva was like a city in western Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Mukacheva a week before the invasion because I knew something probably would happen.
Mm.
And that whole area I lived in, it could have been occupied. And then once I got back to Kyiv, maybe 2 months after it was, they retreated from Bucha and Irpin and all these northern areas
Yeah.
in Kyiv. I went to see kind of what damage was done, and it's sad. Whole apartment blocks blown up. Holes in buildings. People going back to their apartments and they don't have windows, or half their walls are like the wall of their flat is missing. It's super sad to see. And so much torture. I remember I had a guy on here as like a photojournalist, and he was saying like, yeah, I was there like the day after the occupation when Zelensky came. You can see like dogs walking around with people's hands like in their mouth, just like walking along. Dead bodies everywhere. People would say like, oh, come here, check this out. It's like they used this garage as a torture chamber, and you go down, there's blood like all over the floor, dead bodies. It's like, oh, there's like a body in my backyard.
Tough.
It's sick.
Yeah. And then now there's so many people with those stories. It's
Yeah. It's like a whole country is dealing with trauma.
yeah.
Yeah. So I know you're probably going to be leaving Ukraine soon. Maybe, I don't know. But what do you think are your key takeaways from your trip to Ukraine?
My key takeaways from my trip to Ukraine.
Yeah.
People here are really great. Really friendly, actually, too. I wasn't sure because I think the general like stereotype of like Slavic people, not as friendly.
Mhm.
But I would say, I mean, they're definitely like more reserved. But like everyone's been like super warm, super welcoming. And they're really funny.
Yeah.
I think people are really, really funny. I love the sense of humor. And it's really beautiful. Super clean. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's just like part of the culture too.
Yeah. Like, you notice if you go on the metro here in Kyiv, there's like no graffiti.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like they all just have this like collective sense of like, we take care of our space. This is communal space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is really nice. And I don't know. It's just like, it's a really, really big country, and it's really important to, you know, because of where it is, all the potential it has, all of the like the people too, and what they can do. Like I spent some time like with engineers working on the FPV drones and like demining robots and these other things. Like there's a huge IT or like tech scene here, which is like really cool. So I feel like Ukraine is just like a really important place and like really cool place with people. And I mean, there's a war happening, and a lot of people I think are like paying less attention because just over 2.5 years, people don't have the attention span for things anymore. And it's like hard to know, like, okay, there's no update, or like the updates are so small, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's something that we should continue to pay attention to and try to support the people here, because people are fighting and it's super impressive.
Yeah. And are you following American politics at all?
Yes.
No, unfortunately. Yeah, me too. Yeah, because the big election coming up. Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like the fate of Ukraine is on the line.
On the line in the election. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone here in Ukraine at least is watching it closely.
Yeah.
Did you see like this most recent visit Zelensky had to the U.S.? It was like less than a week ago.
I did, and he was like signing.
Yeah, but did you see his interaction with Trump?
Yeah, I also saw, I think they did like a little like press statement.
Yeah, and Trump was talking. I remember seeing the clip. Trump was talking. He's like, yeah, I have a good relationship with Zelensky. Also have a good relationship with Putin. And Zelensky's like, I hope our relationship is like stronger. And he goes, we're good, yeah. And I was like, so, what the heck? I don't know. Like, it just blows my mind. And I was talking to this other guy on my podcast, John Sweeney. John Sweeney, he's an author. He's written 16 books, he was saying, several of them about Ukraine. He's met Putin before. He's met Trump before. He's very interesting guy with very insightful stories. He knows what he's talking about. He has the facts to back it up. And he was saying that he believes there is some compromise on Trump.
There's some what?
Compromise. So there's basically blackmail that Russia has, or Putin has, against Trump.
Oh.
Yeah. And he's like almost certain, because there was like the Steele dossier that came out that was saying that maybe there's like some tapes involved of Trump doing some sexual stuff, you know, with some
I feel like that wouldn't even hurt his campaign at this point.
Yeah.
People like know that they exist somewhere.
But he was saying that it was because, so what he was saying, according to like this guy Steele that he knows, Trump hired a prostitute that looked like Michelle Obama.
What? Wait.
Yeah, and this is what he's saying.
Where is this going?
Yeah, and so he hired this prostitute that looked like Michelle Obama to pee on this other person while he watched. And I was like, because I was saying like, you know, a sex tape like wouldn't even affect Trump, whatever. But he's like, yeah, this one's pretty like, you can't look away from this one. You can't just ignore this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're saying like there's, you know, potentially a video of it, and they're using this as blackmail. And he's like, yeah, sure, it's all conjecture, you know, but there's something here, because Trump, John was saying Trump's an asshole to everyone. He doesn't respect anyone. But for some reason, Putin, he respects him a lot. He doesn't really want to cross him. So maybe there is something with this whole kind of, you know, compromise, this blackmail in the form of like some sex tape. But he was using this Michelle Obama thing as, you know, like it was kind of well known or something. I'm like, wow, I'm like, just like you, like, what the heck?
There was like a golden shower.
Yeah, there's a PP tape
so
that, you know, people were talking about. Yeah.
Is this different?
No, it's basically the same thing that people were talking about before. It's just this is more detail.
Now, because it's in the Michelle Obama lookalike.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's getting weirder.
Yeah, exactly. It's getting weirder.
Definitely getting weirder.
Yeah, yeah. So this is what, John was saying as well. And honestly, I kind of somewhat believe it because he was saying like there's also might be some, that's, Trump, he had sex with this Russian supermodel woman, Miss America, or not Miss America, Miss Russia, whatever. And then he got her pregnant and she had to get an abortion. All of this is documented. And I'm like, okay, I feel like this probably wouldn't hurt his campaign, even though his evangelical base is against all of this. Trump is not faithful to his wife. Like you saw him with Laura Loomer. Yeah. But anyways, that's all speculation, conjecture again. But I'm like, okay, with this Michelle Obama thing, I feel like that would affect something. The abortion one, probably not. But this Michelle Obama P thing, I'm like, yeah, I feel like this would probably get Trump to think twice about messing with somebody that has that specific tape on hand.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So weird. I really didn't appreciate the holding out on aid to Ukraine in exchange for trying to get something on Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
That's just shady, obviously.
No, it's very shady. It just shows that he's not a person to be trusted, with supporting Ukraine fully. It's like, unless like he gets what he wants.
Yeah, and I think that's what people like about him. I think a lot of people like the America First perspective. And so I think like the debate or the question that actually we want to answer is, what is the purpose of foreign aid? Because I think actually like they just don't want money going anywhere else when it should be spent at home, if you talk to like most of them. So I feel like there's like a lack of understanding of just like global politics and how all of that stuff works and how we're all kind of connected in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't actually just like go be isolationist.
You can't, yeah.
Yeah, also like what made America great, if that's what they want, is actually having a play on the world stage. I do think he did do a good job with like getting Europe to like step up more.
Because they were scared that he was going to pull support.
Yeah. So then they were all like giving in more of their GDP and then like stepping up weapons production and stuff. So I think like that part is good. But, a lot of the narratives that he's pushing is just straight propaganda. Like once you just do a little bit of digging on a lot of the things that he says, it's like, this is not true.
But it's crazy how many millions of people still support him, even though he's like, they're eating the cats, the dogs, like this, Springfield, Ohio thing.
Yeah. But I think like the underlying issue is that just like, they don't want immigrants. And it comes back to the America First thing. And then what they're seeing from, if you like get right-wing social media feed or news, it's all like immigrants committed this crime. Immigrants are getting this much money from the government. Immigrants are doing this. And then like, you just like have this fear and you're like,
Yeah.
And so it's like that. So like the cat and dog thing is just like, it becomes.
It's like a dog whistle, I guess.
And like the story of like them eating cats and dogs. I don't know. I wonder, do people like really believe that? And I feel like they just don't actually care though at the end. It's because they just actually don't feel like they fear immigrants because they're also fed different narratives. And there's also probably a fair point about like, yeah, I mean, you can have a border system that works.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. There's like a problem with the border. I agree. There's also a lot of corporate greed in the U.S.
Yeah, on both sides. But it's wild how they're somehow convinced that like Trump isn't corrupt and wouldn't do things for money. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, definitely you can make that argument on the Democrat side that there's a lot of that happening, but like definitely on the Republican side too.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm more.
Yeah, I feel like one party, like mostly the Republican Party, is just I guess they're like trying to manipulate the people, by their fear of like immigrants or something like this.
Right.
Yeah,
It's just a lot of fear mongering.
Yeah.
And that's right wing narrative around the world, right? They make you way more scared than you should be, and then blow things like way out of proportion.
Yeah.
Because people aren't actually voting on like economic policies, because no one understands what the corporate tax rate and all that shit means anyway. So yeah, if you just get them scared.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, who will you be voting for?
I
Jill
will
Stein.
be RFK.
RFK, yeah, there you go. Good girl.
I'll be voting Democrat with my Democrat state, so my vote does not matter.
Yeah, just a drop in the ocean.
Yeah, and I mean, it comes down to like, we don't need like fear-mongering to be fear-mongering, and we've gone into this like post-truth stage, right? We don't need alternative facts. We need facts.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't support.
Okay, so we're coming to like the end of our time here, but I want to ask you, say the war ends, could you imagine yourself living in Ukraine?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I came and I was like, this is comfy. I could live here. I don't know if I could ever learn Ukrainian though.
I think you could. I mean, it's a really difficult language, but you can learn it through
It's
osmosis.
hard.
Just be here long enough, it'll just...
That's what you think.
No, I'm joking. You can't do that.
Just find all the English speakers and then...
But that's the thing. Lakshmi is here. A lot of people, locals, don't speak English.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to learn. This is how I learned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was taking lessons, but after a while, I'm like, okay, I need to learn the language like more seriously, or else I can't do anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you're here long enough, I'm sure you'll learn the language just by force, because you won't be able to speak to anybody. You'll be in isolation.
Yeah. That is very true.
Exactly.
I would probably like go push it and up until the moment and be like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. I need to talk to someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you just like, I need to like commit to staying in a place for a longer period of time, because I come and then I just stay like, okay, let's do a few more days. So like, there's never the push to like commit to really learning.
Yeah. And so when will you be leaving Ukraine then? Next few days?
Yeah, I think by the weekend. It's also getting colder.
Oh yeah.
But I'm supposed to go home and see my family.
Okay, right on.
So yeah.
No, it's really good that you came to Ukraine. I'm really glad that you actually went to the eastern part to see kind of how the war is really affecting the country.
Yeah.
And the people. Because like this Nick guy that came, he made that like propaganda video. I was like really pissed. And this is how I got connected with you, because you posted a comment on it as well. And I saw your comments, and I really respected how you actually went to Kharkiv, how you went to Kherson, because you wanted to get a perspective on what is really going on in the country. Yeah. Whereas Nick didn't want to get a perspective. He just wanted to spin a narrative.
Right. And he just knows that like, well, that's going to get views.
Yeah.
Especially with his audience. So I thought it was very interesting then when he was exposed for...
Oh, yeah.
And then he's saying it's satire.
Yeah, yes.
Like, okay, then why didn't you say that?
Oh, yeah, so that guy that exposed him in that interview, he's actually the next guest, so you may get to meet him. Yeah, Kaylin. Really great guy, yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, okay, so I'll tell you what, is there anything that we didn't discuss that you want to discuss?
I don't know, there's probably so many things, but
Just pick one.
I feel like we discussed a lot. You know, I'm gonna like walk out of here,
Like,
and then it's gonna, all the things are gonna like come up.
We'll edit it in later. We'll do one of your narrations like you do on your videos.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. If you want to maybe plug your social media, or plug any organizations or anything that you want, you can just talk into this camera and just plug away.
Yeah, if you want to follow my journey, I'm on Instagram. I also will be posting again on YouTube. Lost Me is what I go by. And if you want to donate, I'm the NGO that took me to Kherson. They're doing really great things. I don't remember the Ukrainian name of it. The translation was City of Strength.
City of Strength, okay.
Yeah, but it was Misto. I forget.
Misto Seal.
Yeah. But if you go to my page, you'll see them tagged. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, we'll find the translation, and then we'll leave like a link in the description of this video as well.
Yeah.
So,
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Lakshmi. I'm gonna do like the sign off right now. So thanks at home for watching another episode of Expats in Ukraine. If you like this episode, give it a thumbs up. If you want to chat with Lakshmi, leave a comment. She'll be reading them, right? You'll be reading the comments.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Glued to the
Every day,
screen.
refresh. Yeah. Okay. And if you want to watch more episodes of Expats in Ukraine, be sure to hit the subscribe button as well. Lakshmi, thank you so much for coming on the show. Episode. Thanks for coming on the show. And what I like to do with the guests, I like to shake their hand over here off to the side.
Okay.
Come on down. Thank you so much for coming out.
Yes.
And I'll give you a hug too. That's fine.